In this video, we are illustrating a crowd of people when seen from a lower height. Hi friends, I am Vanidas and welcome to a new watercolor tutorial. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and let us get into the discussion. So this is a situation where the eye level of the viewer is around the chest level of the crowd. That means the eye level of the viewer is below the eye level or the top of the head of the crowd in front. So since the case is that the eye level of the viewer is around the chest level of the crowd, we know that the horizon, which is at the eye level of the viewer, will cross at the chest level of the figure in front, and this will happen for approximately all the people in front. Here the assumption is all the people are of same height and the level of the ground is flat. Okay, if the terrain is different, if it is a climbing or a uphill or a downhill, the things will change. So here it is an ideal situation where the ground is flat and all people are of same height. If there is a kid in front, it will change. Okay, so the far away people, they are very tiny, but still the horizon crosses at the chest level, and the nearby person is relatively big and the eye level crosses the chest, and because the eye level is crossing the chest, the head will grow up, the head of the nearby people will grow up, and the feet of the nearby people will grow down. Okay, I think that is pretty clear from this drawing. I am using a gel pen, waterproof gel pen for the drawing. If you are following along, you can use any waterproof pen. It should be waterproof, otherwise when you apply the colors, it will smudge. The drawing will smudge. Or you could use pencil, or you could totally avoid drawing and directly paint it. Okay. Now I think let us go for some directional lines. So that will give some idea of the perspective. Okay. Right. That will also enhance the sense of depth. Now let us have some background. In the previous demonstrations, I was focusing just on the drawing. So here let us also give some sort of a background, and the background is not very detailed or very pretty. It is just a background to fill the scene, and I am using a very grayish purple kind of a wash at the background, which makes it kind of a not so very sunny day, and yeah, this much of the cloud, and let us define some elements around the horizon. Okay, so some darker colors, washes, so that we have a feeling that there is something at the far end. So the idea of this background is just to create a surrounding for this, a context. Sorry for that background noise. I am kind of precisely painting around those drawing. Yeah, so you could just create in a background. Okay, the background is not important in this particular specific case. Okay, I'm using a big brush for this. I would suggest that whenever you paint, try to pick up the biggest brush that you can manage with a certain area. Okay, if you can manage a certain area with a bigger brush, try to go for the bigger brush, because with a bigger brush your brushworks will improve and it becomes bolder and it becomes little sort of loose. Okay. Well, this here I'm using a warmer sort of a ground color, okay, which is an orangish brown, maybe a little bit of purple also. It's since the brush and the palette already contains some purple, you can see some purple in the ground color also, but primarily it is orange and burnt sienna color. Okay, and some darker color. Okay. See, this color could have been better. I'm not really worrying about, I mean, picking the colors in a most appropriate way. I'm sort of picking the color for the, I'm worrying about the tones and whatever color is left out in the palette. If you are following along, you can primarily think about the tones, because it should be a little darker as the, as it comes towards you, as it comes to the bottom. I'm splashing some water with my fingers so that it will create some kind of texture, some random textures, and some of the there are too much of textures, so I am kind of merging some of these textures with a brush. This, see, the surface is still wet, not dry. It is sort of damp. Okay. I think this much of a background is sufficient, and now we should be in a position to actually paint the figures. Pick up some interesting colors, to pick some vibrant colors for the front figures, for the nearby figures, and pick some maybe grayish or bluish color for the far away figures, so that the color perspective, the color will appear more and more brighter as it comes closer to you. The colors will appear towards the grayish kind of an hue as it goes away from you. So that concept you can use. Okay, so now this is just sort of filling the drawing like a coloring book kind of a style here. Okay, I'm taking some time for picking the color. So since the colors, I haven't pre-mixed the colors and kept it ready with me, so I just I usually don't mix the colors well in advance. I kind of try to pick up the adjacent colors or matching colors based on what is already formed on the paper. Okay, so I usually take a little bit of a couple of seconds to actually mix the colors as I paint. So if you are more methodical and if you prefer to pre-mix the colors in advance, you can feel free to do so. Right. So since it is not a very well planned, or we are not basing any reference for this, some of the thought process happens in real time, dynamically. And when I say thought process, it could be the colors, it could be whether a figure should be facing towards us or it should be facing away from us. All those decisions, and if there is any additional suggestions required, all those decisions are taken on the fly, on the go. So it sometimes those thinking process takes time. Okay, so here this blue, I have used a little bit a touch of Chinese white to get the color I wanted, because I didn't have the proper light blue in my palette. So I think I have used the cobalt blue and added a touch of white watercolor there. So usage of white is not advised usually. So if you want to avoid, you can avoid it. Okay. Sometimes I tend to use touches of white for some highlights. See, if you want to totally avoid whites, that is the ideal way of doing it, but then you may have to plan it well in advance. All the white spaces you have to leave in advance, and many times I find it a little difficult, because I like to keep the freedom for the washes, and I want the washes to be bold and quick. So I don't want to paint around the white spaces, so I find it a little difficult, but if you can do that, that is best. If you're finding this informative, this tutorial, and if you're finding something to learn from this, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell notification. And if you have any questions or suggestions, write them in the comment box below. I'll try to get back with your answers, and I will also try to incorporate your suggestions, if any, as much as possible. Right, I think these small figures See, we can keep on adding figures, but I think we have already clarified the concept now. And see, if you haven't if you have any doubt on why certain things are seen this way, please go back and watch my part 3 of the tutorial on perspective of crowd. So you can watch it. That explains the entire the principles behind this particular view. Now let us add little bit more interest around the horizon area. So I am applying some darker touches so that it defines some sort of buildings or some other structures at the horizon, little far away, so that there is a clear distinction between the land and the background. Okay, this is sort of a dry brush work that I am using, and I have used for this entire painting I have used just one brush, which is a synthetic round brush. Try to get I mean the things with minimum amount of tools. That is what I usually suggest, because you don't want to depend on specific tools, the availability of specific tools. So you should be able to manage with whatever tool that you have, because then you can always paint at your will. Because many times what happens is, when you have the inspiration, you keep searching for the tools, and by the time you get the tool, you lose the inspiration. So that shouldn't happen. So it is always a good idea to manage with whatever tool that is available with you. Okay, and specific brand of the tools, these things are not necessary. You should be able to work with whatever brand of colors that you have, whatever shade of color you have, and whatever brush you have. Here I am using a liner brush. I have changed my brush because I wanted to get a little bit more clear thin line. Okay, so it is a little difficult to get this kind of thin line with a round brush, a bigger round brush. So I am switched the brush here. Yeah, I think a little bit of a shadow here, and this brush has a good point, and it's kind of little versatile. I mean, it's a kind of a calligraphy type brush that I'm using now. And this shadow, I mean assumes light from certain direction, but it is just for creating interest. Okay, so don't worry too much about each individual things. Don't worry too much about the shadow shape and the shadow length and the shadow colors, etc. See, it is important if you are making some serious paintings, but when you do these kind of practices, you can just worry about the consistency in the shadow direction and reasonable representative shape and tone. Okay, some yellow, orange, red, orange touches for the exposed body part, and I think we are pretty much done with this particular subject, and so I think it is reasonably convincing. Okay, so hope you understood the approach here, and if you have any doubt or questions, please do let me know. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. Okay, so your comments, your views, your thoughts, your suggestions all matters a lot to me. Please write them into the comment box below, and we'll hopefully see in the next video, and we'll keep learning together. Thank you very much. Bye bye.